Good morning, my name is Gaia Pretner and I am a postdoctoral researcher at Sant'Anna School of Advanced Studies. I'm here today to present you our paper on willingness to pay for circular economy products. This paper is co-authored with Professor Nicole Darnall from Arizona State University and with Professors Francesco, Testa and Fabio Iraldo from Sant'Anna School as well. So, why a paper on circular economy products? So the main aim of this paper was to finding a way to foster circular economy translation. We think that there is an important role played by consumers because demand, of course, of product influences the supply. So how can we push the demand for circular economy products? And what do we mean for circular economy products? So we mean products that either extend the loop, so that are second-hand or used products, or alternatively that are capable of closing the loop, so products that are made from recycled material. We decided to focus on garments because this is a very relevant industry that is still characterized by a very high usage of virgin feedstock, more than 97%, a very fast usage phase, and a very high percentage of garments that are still landfill or incinerated, with just 12% of textile that are somehow recycled or cascaded, and 12% of losses in production. So definitely this is a sector that needs an intervention. Besides, the production of garments has doubled in the last 15 years. And at the same time, however, the average number of times a garment is worn before it ceases to be used has decreased significantly. So, which means that there is a fast fashion movement, and garments that are still perfectly in good shape are thrown away by consumers because they want to buy new ones. This is an issue that is raising interest also from the industries. Here you have some examples of famous brands that have started to market products made from recycled material inputs. One of the most famous cases are related to shoes or garments made from bottle plastics recovered from the ocean, but there are also other brands that are starting working with other particular recycled input material like orange peels, as it is the case of Salvatore Ferragamo. So how did we approach it? So we started trying to distinguish between green product and circular product. So there is a huge literature highlighting the willingness to pay a premium price for green product. Why? Because green products normally have a higher ethical value because they somehow protect an interest, a public interest, like the environmental protection, but also because in the case of green products, they most of the time are also considered of higher quality. This is the case of natural, biodegradable, biological, or organic products that are also perceived as healthier. So consumers are going to pay more for them also for this reason. When we speak about circular products, however, there is another effect, that is the effect of contamination. So products that have been used or that are recycled produce a feeling of dirty, of unsafe, of contamination that thus lowers willingness to pay. So our first hypothesis basically is that willingness to pay for circular product is radically lower than willingness to pay for the very same conventional alternative. However, we also know that if we try to push to highlight more the positive ethical value of circular products, consumers are going to value more. So how can we do this? Providing environmental information. So our second hypothesis basically is that providing environmental information of the environmental benefit of a circular economy products will raise willingness to pay for both the recycled and second-hand garments. We, however, know that there will always be the contamination negative effect. So we are not sure the willingness to pay will be higher than willingness to pay for a conventional alternative. We are also aware that literature highlights the phenomenon of skepticism. So consumers are not always willing to trust environmental information provided by producers. So one way to overcome this limit is provide information verified by a third-party independent subject. So we also thought that in this case, willingness to pay is going to be much higher than when all environmental information provided and when no environmental information is provided at all. Again, we work on the ethical value, but we still have a negative effect of contamination. So again, we are not sure willingness to pay is going to be higher than willingness to pay for a conventional product alternative. And finally, we also have the role of environmental concern. We think that it might have a moderating role, but in this case, the role is different for recycled and second-hand garments, because for recycled garments, the environmental benefit is most of the time already evident. So we don't think the level of environmental concern is going to have a huge effect, whereas we expect it might have a negative impact on willingness to pay for second-hand according to the interaction with the provisional information. We see how this works. So test our hypothesis, we designed two parallel experiments, one on recycled garment and the other second-hand garments. And for each one, we divided our respondents into 3 groups. One group received no information at all about the environmental impact of the product. Group 1 received only environmental information with no third-party verification, and Group 2 received verified environmental information. And we asked to price the willingness to pay. For a garment, we chose a hoodie. This is an example of the screen our respondents were shown. This is the control group stimuli in the US version. So respondents were said they had the possibility to buy 2 different types of hoodie, a brand new one or a second-hand one. We said them that the price of a brand new one was $40, and we asked them to price how much they're willing to pay for a second-hand hoodie. They have to select the willingness to pay through a sliding bar that was set at 40 at the beginning. So they wanted them to make a starting choice between am I going to pay more or less. Whereas for the recycled hoodie, we spoke about a new hoodie made from a used raw virgin material or a new hoodie made from recycled material. And again, we say the virgin hoodie is $40. How much are we willing to pay for a recycled hoodie? And again, they had to select the willingness to pay for the sliding bar. This was just to show you how the control group stimuli worked, but respondents could be in experiment A or in experiment B. There's no way they were going to respond to both this question, right? How about the results? So here you can see the willingness to pay on the left. You have willingness to pay for a recycled garment. On the right, you have for second-hand garment. The black line is relating to the American sample, and the gray line is about Italian sample. So here we go. As you can see, Americans are going to pay more for recycled garments and way much less for second-hand garment. The provisional information is relevant for the Americans only when it is verified, whereas it makes a huge difference in Italy also when it is not verified. Whereas for the second-hand garment is the other way around. So the provision of generic information doesn't affect the Italian sample, but it does for the American. The most important thing to notice is that anytime the environmental information is verified, willingness to pay is significantly way higher than the control group willingness to pay. Another important thing to notice is that the willingness to pay never reaches the threshold of $40 that was the set price of a conventional hoodie. The only exception is for the American sample, the verified information that peaked $39, and that the mean significance between the mean difference was not significant between this value and the constant value $40. But in general, let's say our first hypothesis that circular economy products are value less than the conventional alternatives is verified, because no one is going to pay more than for a conventional garment. The provision of not verified environmental information is partially verified, because it sometimes works and sometimes it doesn't. But when it comes to the verified information, it always works. So if you want to market that kind of product, it would be better to do it with a third-party verifying information. So again, hypothesis when it was verified, conventional product price is always higher than a circular economy product. The provision information helps raising willingness to pay, but not always. In this case, it worked in Italy for the recycled garment, but not in the US, and it worked in the US, but not in Italy for the second-hand garment. Whereas the verified information always works in all the settings. What the environmental concern impact? So here again, you have on the left, you have the US. Willingness to pay, where you have in gray you have low concern respondents, and in black you have highly concerned respondents. And on the right you have the same difference about Italy. So what we can notice here is that the provision of information basically doesn't change willingness to pay between highly and lowly concerned. So who is highly concerned is always going to pay much more, and here it is the only case we find a group of respondents that is willing to pay more than the conventional price at $40, whereas the low concern are always going to pay less. The effect is less evident in Italy, but it's still working. I mean, there was no significance in the mean differences between the free treatments in the separated group of lowly and highly concerned respondents. So basically, our fourth positive hypothesis was verified. So the level of environmental concern does not interact with the provision of environmental information. So if it is already high, they're going to pay more, notwithstanding the information you are providing. And the same we can say about the low concern. When you analyze the effect of environmental concern on second-hand garments, we highlight a peculiar effect, that the effect is negative. I mean, here we have that low concern in gray are going to pay more than high concern when a verified information is provided. And this is probably because, in this case, they're going to value more the verification itself than the information it carries. And probably also because they don't know anything about environmental benefit of second-hand garments, because if they are low concern, they also have a lower level of environmental knowledge, and they would probably have more difficulties in identifying which could be the environmental advantage of second-hand garments that is more evident for recycled garments. So here the verification has a stronger effect, and it has important implication also for the industries. In America, the effect is very clear. In Italy, the effect is they're going to pay more or less the same. So let's say that our 4B was mostly verified, especially for the American sample. So finally, what can we derive? Which are the open questions we have derived from our study? So there are other future possible research avenues considering the influence for the brand's reputation. We know that the very good brand reputation, especially relating the quality of products, could make a huge difference when marketing recycle, refurbish, or remanufacture, or even second-hand, let's say, repaired products. Then we also analyzed wealthy and well-developed countries. So what would happen if we take into consideration developing countries that may be more open to second-hand and recycled products? Then we also consider products that have a high level of personal connections, like garments is something that enters into direct contact with personal body. So probably the negative feeling of contamination has a stronger effect for this kind of products. So it could be different if we test it considering other kind of products with a lower level of personal connection. And finally, we try to highlight here the positive benefits on the ethical value, let's say, of products. What could happen if we try to lower the negative impact of the contamination feeling of circular products? These are, let's say, some open questions we would like to develop in future research. Thank you for your attention, and have a nice discussion and conference.